So let's rewind to 1812, a year that changed everything for Napoleon Bonaparte and his empire. He had this grand vision to expand his rule across Europe, and Russia was next on his hit list. The invasion started off with a bang, as his army, the Grande Armée, marched in with over 600,000 soldiers strong. But little did he know this would quickly turn into a nightmare. The disastrous retreat that followed would not only decimate his forces, but also reshape the political landscape of Europe forever. Today, we're diving into the insanity of that infamous Russian retreat and how it became Napoleon's biggest blunder. Now let's set the stage for what led to this disaster. The Grande Armée faced monumental challenges right from the get-go. First off, they had to deal with the sheer size of Russia. Think about it, marching through vast, empty landscapes where supplies were few and far between. As the Russian forces engaged in a scorched earth policy, they deliberately destroyed everything in their path: crops, livestock, anything that could sustain the French troops. And this wasn't just a walk in the park either. The fierce Russian resistance was relentless. They weren't just fighting for their land, they were fighting for their very survival. As they pressed deeper into Russia, morale began to plummet. Soldiers were suffering from starvation and exhaustion. Many were sick, and the harsh winter was just beginning to set in. The French soldiers who once marched with confidence now trudged through mud and snow, their spirits crushed. It was a perfect storm of logistical nightmares and fierce resistance, and Napoleon was about to face the consequences of his ambitious campaign. Now let's get to the climax of this tragic tale. The turning point came after the Battle of Borodino, which was one of the bloodiest battles of the campaign. Napoleon won, but at a terrible cost. Thousands of lives lost. And for what? The Russian army retreated, but they didn't just give up. They were regrouping and planning. Then came the burning of Moscow, a shocking moment that left Napoleon in disbelief. As he entered the city, he was met with the eerie sight of flames consuming the capital. The Russians had set it ablaze, denying the French any resources to regroup or heal. It was in this moment that the reality hit him. His army was in deep trouble, cut off from supplies and with winter creeping in. The realization sank in that his grand plans were slipping away. With Moscow in ruins and no clear path forward, the decision was made. It was time to retreat. But what awaited them was nothing short of a nightmare. Falling action. And so began the harrowing journey of retreat. Imagine trudging through a relentless winter where temperatures plummeted and snowstorms became a daily battle. Soldiers were freezing, starving, and demoralized. The terrain was unforgiving and every step felt like a march toward death. The once mighty Grande Armée was now just a shadow of its former self, with soldiers falling behind, succumbing to the elements, or being picked off by Russian forces that were now hunting them down. Attacks from Russian troops became a constant threat. They were ambushing the retreating soldiers, picking them off one by one. The cries of the wounded echoed through the snowy landscape. Those who had survived the initial campaign were now fighting for their lives, faced with starvation and frostbite. The retreat was a chaotic scramble, with soldiers abandoning their weapons and gear just to stay alive. It was a tragic downfall, a once great army reduced to a desperate mass of humanity. Resolution. As the soldiers staggered back across the border, the consequences of this disastrous retreat became clear. Out of that initial 600,000, only a fraction made it back. The defeat shattered Napoleon's image as an invincible leader. It changed the course of European history, triggering a series of events that would lead to his downfall. The balance of power shifted and nations began to rise against him, emboldened by his vulnerability. Napoleon's retreat from Russia was not just a military failure, it was a pivotal moment that illustrated the limits of ambition and the harsh realities of warfare. It taught future leaders about the importance of logistics, strategy, and respecting the power of nature. Call to action. So what do you think? Was Napoleon's hubris the real villain here, or were there bigger forces at play? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're fascinated by military strategies and their consequences, check out my related video where we break down other historical blunders that changed the world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our content. Thanks for watching.